So we're seeing that loans are ticking up. The amount of time that you're that they're writing these loans for, and it's because the prices of cars have gotten so freaking expensive that for people to be able to afford a monthly payment on a car, they have to continuously just extend the loans on a car. I remember, what was it, 20, 25 years ago, like the average loan was like 36 months for a new car. And now we're seeing 7, 8. I've even seen like 9-year car loans on some of these big trucks, and it's absolutely insane. What do you think is just going to continue to increase as the price of vehicles continues to increase over time, Ray?
Uh, what's the average length of a mortgage on a home in Japan?
it's, uh, it's like 100 years, I think, something like
It
that.
is, yeah. The
Yeah.
home stay in the family. Why? Because that's the only way they can make it affordable. So, as prices continue to go up, the only way they can make it affordable is to continue to extend the length of the loans. When I first started in 1977, average loan was 24 months. Then it went to 36, then 42, then 48, then 60. We skipped the 50s altogether. Then 60 months. Then the next thing you knew, it was 72 months. 6-year financing, and today, like an 84-month note is almost considered normal, because it's the only way you can make the amount of money people have to finance come to an affordable monthly payment. Now, the extra interest that you pay for that is staggering, but most payment buyers, they don't care. It's like the guy that used to come in and say, yeah, but what's my payment with the late charge? They don't care how much extra they're paying. They just care that it fits within their monthly budget. So, I if car prices continue to go up over time, which they probably will, then yeah, terms are going to continue to get longer and longer. And eventually, even though the cars won't last 100 years, people will get a 100-year loan on their car and it'll stay in the family forever.
So even as these terms are getting up to 6, 7, 8 years, like what's going even right now, what's going to happen? You have a Hyundai Sonata, and it's on a 7-year loan. Like 4 years from now, that something's going to go wrong. There's going to be a big problem with that car. What I mean, with someone who's living paycheck to paycheck, making
Mhm.
these car payments in a lot of situations. I mean, you can call a crisis anything. An alternator going out, which could only cost 3, 4, 500 bucks to replace. That is a crisis for someone who's living paycheck to paycheck. What happens in those cases? Because I know, like at buy here, pay here lots. Whenever I'm talking to a lot of these dealers that go that route, when they're holding their own notes, they're writing their own loans to these consumers. They say that the consumers that are living paycheck to paycheck, they have the ability to do one thing. They can either make the payment or they can fix the car, but they can't do both. And I'm curious to know, as these cars get older, but they're still under a loan through like Wells Fargo or another one of these big institutions. What do these customers do? I would assume they probably go a similar route to what a lot of these buy here pay here customers are having to do, because everyone right now is paycheck to paycheck anyway. Do they just default on their car? And maybe that's why we're seeing the default rate go
I,
up so high right now anyway.
I think what we will see happen is that we will see the percentage of people purchasing an extended vehicle service contract with their car when they first get it. That percentage of people will start to go up, way up, because the finance manager is going to look at the customer and say, the bank's concerned that if you had to make a choice between a repair and the payment, that you could only do one, that in many cases you couldn't do both. So, in order to protect your interests and the bank's interests, in case anything major were to happen, we would highly recommend that you get a vehicle service contract to cover any of those major expenses when they happen. So, I think that you'll see the percentage of people buying those vehicle service contracts will go up dramatically. Because let's face it, that's the only way most people would be able to afford to do it. Most people today, given a choice, couldn't do both.
I remember there used to be a finance company that was near our car dealership we used to have before we moved to the location that we're in right now. And every once in a while, we would have our customers that couldn't afford our $2,500 cars go there and get a loan from this this lending. It was just a small lending place. It wasn't a bank. I don't even know what you call these places that aren't banks, but they still loan money to consumers for vehicles. But they would force these customers to get some kind of warranty on this car while they had this loan. Is that legal? Can banks require that a customer gets some kind of warranty or some kind of guarantee to be able to write them a loan?
They can strongly suggest it.
Didn't sound like that from this place.
Yeah, but they can't legally require it. But they can strongly suggest it. And my guess is that they're good enough salespeople that they could paint such a bleak picture, okay, that through that strong suggestion, most people are going to go, okay, I'll take it. So that's what happens. But legally, they can't do that. They can't force you to buy a warranty in order for you to get the loan.
Yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, whenever these consumers came with their paperwork or whatever, they would always show me that and say, yeah, they made me buy this service contract with this, so I'm not going to have to worry about anything that goes wrong with this $2,500 car. And it was always interesting to see their like the warranty that they were buying with this $2,500 car would be like $700-800.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
and you would see the terms of this loan, and they could see their payments, and they were paying like almost, that was 25-30% interest on this loan. By the end of the terms of this loan, I mean, they were paying over double what they were actually buying the car from me for.
Yeah, they were paying $5,000 or more for a $2,500 car. But that's because it fit into their comfort level on a monthly basis.
They can afford the monthly payments. I guess that means they can afford it, right?
Well, the other thing that
and a $5,000 deductible off the $2,500 car.
And the other thing that finance managers are really quick to say is, well, you don't think the bank would agree to lend you the money if they didn't think you could afford to pay it back, do you?
Right. How does a repossession impact the resale value of a vehicle? I can tell you in the 13 years that I've done this, it's been maybe only a handful of times that I've ever seen a repossession actually reported on a Carfax. So in most cases, if a car has been repossessed and you buy it, you probably are not going to even know that it was a repossessed car. Because they're not reported. You're not going to see it on the title. There's no title brand that says repo or was a repossession.
Mm-hmm.
Now you'll see stuff like theft, flood, any kind of structural damage or anything like that. You can see that on a title. But there's no real history. There's no real paper trail showing repossession on most cars. Now, there has been a couple times on Carfax it's popped up for me that I've seen a repo. But even in those cases, it's not going to affect what you're going to buy the car, specifically from a dealer. The dealer's going to look up, there's going to be a price that this is the market on the car. Doesn't matter if it's a repo or not, they're going to still sell it for that price.
The repossession only impacts the person who had it repossessed. It does not impact the dealer who is selling it, because, as you say, 99% of the cases, there would be no way for the new buyer to know that it was a repossession.
Yeah, the only thing that you could really bank on is that a repossessed car is typically not going to be taken care of like a car that someone who wants to keep the car. A lot of these people who actually get their cars repossessed, they know it's going to get repossessed. So they're not doing oil changes. They're not fixing minor problems. If they back into a sign or a pole, they're not fixing any of that because they are planning on not keeping the car. So in a lot of cases, the stuff that I buy, that $5,000 and under tier, repos are absolutely just blown up. Like they're cars that we don't even want to buy. So that would be the thing that would significantly decrease the value of the car, but it's not necessarily because it's a repo. It's just because the quality of the car is so bad.
Because it hasn't been maintained.
Yeah. I think Ray will always say it's the cream of the crap. Is that the phrase?
Yes. It is the cream of the crap as opposed to just the crap of the crap. Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. No, cream of crap would mean it's the best of the worst.
Yes.
These are the worst of the worst.
Yeah. Do you want to be the best of the worst or the worst of the best?
I think I would want to be the worst of the best because when then you're matched up against the worst, you're the best of the worst. So you're the same either way, right?
Okay. There you go.
Okay. Yeah. I think I would want to be the best. No, you know what? If I'm saying it and saying it proud, I think I would want to say I'm the best of the worst because I want to be the best of something.
I want to be the worst of the best because people just assume that you're better than because you're associated with the best.
Oh, okay.
Who knows?
This is a bad question, and I told you I wasn't going to answer stupid questions, and you posed a stupid question, and it wasn't even in chat. So you threw that.
I did. It's one of those conundrums that's bothered me all my life.
All right, we can rocket fire some of these questions. Is that the term? That's not. We can go fast on some of these questions.
Okay.
Right. What's the best old lady 2 to 3 year old midsize SUV? Finance would not be an issue. That's a good thing. Low mileage RX 350. I'm guessing my answer would always be to this question like a RAV4, but it seems like you're looking for the next step up from that. So if you're going more luxury, I love the RX 350. I drove one for quite a while. It was like a 2011, 2012. I loved it. Great car. My wife had a Venza for a very long time, which is the exact same car in the Toyota. And I think if financing is not a problem, it's one of the most reliable cars that you can buy.
Absolutely. And if you're looking at a luxury brand, you're certainly better off with the Lexus than I would say a comparable BMW or Mercedes, because the cost of maintaining the Lexus is going to be considerably less than maintaining that German car.
All right. So should you buy a 5-year-old cow?
You could.
So, I was mixing car and now. Okay. My brain was working faster than my mouth was. So should you buy a 5-year-old car now, or should you wait on buying a car? I have an opinion on this, but I'll let you go first, Ray.
Well, I think it's cheaper now than, I don't know. I mean, literally, I've been doing this nonsense for 43 years. If you find a car you like, buy it now. I mean, why drive yourself crazy? And maybe if the hope is that you're going to save a few dollars, well, maybe by the time you go to buy it, it'll have to be a 6-year-old car. We already had the conversation that there's going to be a shortage of younger low mileage vehicles, and so those prices are going to remain somewhat elevated. So I don't know.
So I can tell you what happens as far as the seasonality of used car prices go, but I mean, you can take this with a grain of salt, because if you're looking at a 5-year-old car, the best case scenario, you're going to save yourself $1,000. That's what's going to happen. So if you could buy one right now in the used car market, because right now the time is going to be the used car dealers are the slowest right now than they are all year round. So they're going to be more negotiable right now. You wait 2 months and prices are going to be the highest that they're going to be all year round. Even though it's going to be a more expensive car, people are getting tax refunds, and they can use those tax refunds to as down payments. So car dealers are going to be selling more cars at that time of year, and they're going to be less negotiable. So I think the question should be, when is the most negotiable time for me to be able to buy a vehicle from a used car dealer? That's the question that we need to answer here. right now until about the end of January. And then you do not ever want to be a buyer of a used car from February until about April. And then after that, when you get into the summer, it gets slower for used car dealers. In the fall, it ticks up just a little bit, but not so much that you're not going to be able to negotiate a deal. And then at the end of the year, again, is going to be your best time to negotiate for a used car. So any time of the year other than around tax time would be, in my opinion, of when that's the only time I'm not buying a used car anywhere. Doesn't matter where.
Okay, so if I heard you correctly, so the answer is now until the end of January.
Yep. If you need to buy it in the next little bit, you need to buy one then. If you can't wait, but after that, wait about 6 months, and then you'll be able to negotiate again. But car dealers will shut down on negotiation once money gets into the system from tax refunds.
Absolutely.
And ask us some stuff about like dealership stuff. That's the car market is something that we talk about all the time. We're going to make videos on the car market. That's an easy thing for us to know when something pops up in the news or whatever. But if you have any questions specifically about dealerships, Ray has experience on the franchise side, and I myself own a used car dealership. So this is the kind of stuff that we can talk about. Really, we have more expertise in that even than covering the car market. So any questions you have surrounding how a dealership's run, how to get the best deals off cars at dealerships, when to buy, those kind of things. We can cover any of that. All right. You want to answer a couple questions and we'll get out of here?
Yeah, buddy. And then I have to, believe it or not, at 4:00 I have to film a video with Zach. So this is a pretty full day.
It's a busy day. You need a raise, my friend.
I'll work on that.
I'll put in a word for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
There you go. All right, let's start from the top here. So I'm going to go ahead and tell everybody, look, I appreciate your money. Please stop. Please stop.
Yeah.
All right. All right, there's my ungratefulness. And now let's do the nice question now. Okay. How should the damage at Stellantis affect Alfa Romeo? I was hoping to buy a 2024, say that word.
Julia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Am I mad or nuts? What do you think?
You're both. I mean, how does it affect Alfa Romeo? I mean, here, I'll help you with this. Alfa Romeo is not extremely popular in this country. Even though it came back, 8, 9 years ago, 10 years ago, it is still not a particularly big seller. It's an interesting car. The Giulia is an interesting car. The Stelvio is interesting. They don't retain their value well. So are you nuts? I don't know. I mean, if it's something that you want and you plan to try and live with for a long time or so, then, and you can afford to do it, then just do it and treat yourself to it and stop worrying about it. How's that for advice?
I think you should buy a car you can pay cash for. And if that's a $2,500 Ford Taurus, I think you should drive that until it blows up, and then you buy another cash car. That's my opinion. I'm a used car dealer, and I sell cars under $5,000. This is an endorsement. Yeah.
There you
go. All right. Adam, what is Nissan doing with the Datsun name?
I don't know. What are they doing with the Datsun name? I remember when they changed it from Datsun to Nissan. I was with them at that time. I don't know. I have no idea.
So you think about a brand like Datsun, and there's been a ton of these other brands, and it seems like every once in a while one of them will just resurface, and there'll be a company try to reestablish it. Are there any names that you can think of? I think Datsun is probably one of them that still hold enough weight with a customer base that actually like the product that they could resurface.
I don't know. Wouldn't you think that Saturn could resurface, or even Oldsmobile?
Not Saturn, maybe Oldsmobile. I don't think Saturn. Saturn's not there.
I know that when General Motors decided to close down Saturn, that Roger Penske was trying to figure out a way to buy it, and actually keep the company going. But economically, it just didn't make sense.
You know what? I think we might actually have a Saturn on our lot right now.
Really?
Yeah, you know what? I'm not. I was about to pull up my website. No, we're not going to do that right now. Anyway, I still buy Saturn, so they still they're the versions that were basically the same thing as like the Chevy Malibus, and the Chevy Equinox. They had a Saturn that was all the same parts, everything like that. We'll still buy those, and they're still in circulation. There's tons of them at the auctions that we go to,
Yeah,
and
they were decent cars, and everybody knew what the price was, and that was the beauty of it. And the price was the price, and I mean, the only reason Saturn didn't succeed long term is it came down to product at a certain point. Uh, they suffered from what Nissan suffers from today, which is at a certain point they didn't have anything that was exciting the public.
Yeah, no, I'm going to show you right here why Saturn did not make it. Let's see if I can figure out technology though. Why is this? Where am I at? Oh, there we go. There we are.
I don't know where.
Boom. No, I'm trying to figure out technology. I know this is great. This is great for technology. This right here is why Saturn did not make it. That is the ugliest car that I have ever seen in my life.
I don't know. What are you forgetting about the Pontiac Aztec?
You know what? I've had a lot of Aztecs and I've had a lot of Saturns.
Yeah, and Aztec.
I think the Saturn's worse. I think it's worse.
If it wasn't for Breaking Bad, I don't think anybody would ever agree to have an Aztec. I remember the first season of Survivor. The guy that won it, I mean, part of the ultimate prize was they got an Aztec. I mean, that would be a reason enough not to want to be the winner.
I remember buying, there was this one Aztec. It was like an Aztec Sport or something like that. And it was supposed to be like this off-roady kind of this kind of thing. And it had the coolest feature ever. It had a cooler built into the center console. And keep in mind, I was buying cheap used cars then too. And a cheap used car that has a cooler in it, when I got it myself, you can imagine what was in this cooler and how bad it smelled and how nasty and dirty and the amount of mold that was sitting in this cooler whenever I bought it. So,
well, yeah. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Always be careful with a used Aztec with the cooler.
All right, Rich asks a question. Ray, could Lee Iacocca save Stellantis?
Lee Iacocca was a visionary, really, when you think about it. And is he the kind of guy who was product-based that could bring back a company like Stellantis? I'm going to disagree with Brandon, who was shaking his head no, and I'm going to say yes. He would have been the type of product-based leader who could turn around a company. If he were alive today, he could turn around Stellantis. If he were alive today, he could figure out how to get Nissan to produce something exciting that people would want. So, yeah, I think there's certain leaders that just have this innate ability to get it and to connect with the public, and I think he was one of those. So yes, I think he could have.
I agree with everything that you say about the man, and the only reason I shake my head on that to say no is because I think Stellantis is already too far gone to be saved. That would be my only thing. I think if another company came in and bought a brand like Jeep or bought Jeep, Dodge, and Ram, and then they were funded behind that to be able to basically start over a little bit, then yes, absolutely, he could turn that around. But in the state that it's in right now, if it's not going to get bought out by someone else, I don't think anyone can really come in and save it. I think it's too far gone at this point.
Gotcha. No, I that might make sense. But
Yeah.
he was a unique character in the business.
All right, here we go. And C Pint says, I'm working on fixing my credit. It's 687 as of right now. My job requires I have a car to transport clients, and their Nissan transmission is going out like Nissan transmissions tend to do. And they make $32,000 a year. What should they do? I have an answer for this, but I'll let you go first.
Find a cosigner. I mean, if
No,
if
hey,
you're,
not wrong.
yeah, no, if you make $32,000 a year and you have a 687 credit, which could be tier 3, maybe tier 2 somewhere, but it depends on what your credit file looks like more than just the score itself. Um, and you're required to have a vehicle to transport clients, which means you're going to need a newer type of vehicle in order to do that. You're probably going to be best served if you have a co-signer who can help you get the type of loan that would be required. And it's $32,000 a year income means you can't afford that big of a payment. So a co-signer could help.
I see that they're in the chat right now. Kit, do you have any cash that you've actually saved up? Is there any money sitting to the side that you're saving up for this car, whether it be for that whole car or for a down payment on the car? That's what I would be curious about. And we'll jump to another question while you're looking at that. This is an easy one. If a car sits there for a long time, do the tires start to go bad?
Well, they get what's known as flat spots. So yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and in used cars, you can actually have some dry rot that happens
Yes.
if they're older tires already.
Yes.
So yeah, and I've seen a lot of these dealerships. And not only talking about tires, but like batteries. Batteries are probably the bigger issue than tires are, because they're going to go bad a lot faster than you're going to get flat spots. You're going to get and just even brand new batteries that sit a long time without moving the car for a bit can go bad really quickly. I saw we're going to end with this. Okay. So they have about $4,000 right now, trying to get around $6,000. My advice to you would be, if you've got $4,000 right now and you can make that Nissan last for another 2-3 months, I would try to get up to that $6,000 range, because I think in any market, no matter where you are, like if you're close to me in North Carolina, I know you can find cheap cars. But I know if you're in a place like California, if you're in a place like New York, or anywhere that's in like a Rust Belt kind of area, it's going to be very difficult for you to find a reliable car at that $4,000 price point. You could probably do it around me. But if you get to that $5,500, $6,000 price point, I think in any market, you'll be able to find something that I think can get you by for a year, 2 years. Even if you're transporting people, if you can find a 2006, 2007 Camry, a 4-cylinder, I think you're going to have a car that's reliable enough that you can trust to get your job done. And my opinion would be that you pay cash for this car. But before you do that, make sure you find a mechanic that you trust, that you can get to check out that car before you buy it. If you go to a dealership and they won't let that mechanic check it out, don't buy that dealership. Go to a different dealership. And the most important thing about this whole purchase is getting it checked out before you buy it. Because if you're saving up that money for a vehicle that you need for your job, you want to make sure that you're not buying a paperweight. And you can do that very, very easily, whether you buy it from a dealer, whether you buy it from the individual, it doesn't matter. A 15-year, 20-year-old used car can turn into dust in 2 drives if you don't know exactly what you're getting into before you buy it. Going Ray's route, getting a loan, getting a co-signer, you're going to be safer. But financially, I think you're going to work yourself out better if you're able to find a car that you can pay cash for, and not have car payments. But me and Ray, a lot of times we differ on this.
No, I agree with that. I would just think if he wants to end up with something that maybe perhaps there's payments, if he's got $4,000 to $6,000 to put down, maybe a $15,000 car, and you finance 10 grand, something like that.
Yeah, and there's many times where I will say that I don't want you to go into car debt. If it's related to your job, that's the one argument that I can get around buying a car that maybe you can't pay cash for at the moment just for the reliability that you're going to the safeness. Because if you're going to spend this $4,000 to $6,000 on a car, and if it blows up in 3 days, then you're out of a job. That's the only thing. That's the only situation where I can say, hey, yeah, go waste your money, because it's going to be safer. It's going to make you more money in the long run because you're using it for work. That's the only situation where I would be more in the race camp to go for a car loan. But still, it still makes it hurts my heart to say that I would even be okay with that, because I'd rather just pay cash. But if it's for work and it's got to get you to work every single day and you have no backup plan, then you gotta weigh out the risk. That's the thing.
We don't want you hurting your heart, but I do have to go.
Yeah, let's get out of here.
Yeah, I've got more work to do in 25 minutes, less than 25 minutes.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, guys. We'll be back again next Tuesday, 1:30. Make sure you like, subscribe, do all the things for Ray, for my wife, for everyone else involved with this. We want to just say thank you, and we'll see you next week.
If you liked what you saw today, do us a favor right here at CarSense. Like and subscribe. We're new. We're growing. You can't do without us.